Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going deep into one of anime and manga's most complex villains, Griffith from Berserk. Now, I know, villain doesn't quite capture everything about him, but he's definitely not your average bad guy. He's a character who redefines what it means to be evil. And as we peel back the layers of Griffith's personality, ambitions, and choices, you're going to see just how masterfully Berserk creator Kentaro Miura crafted him to challenge every single one of our moral compasses. Before we dive into Griffith's story though, let's talk about the concept of evil itself. It's such a loaded word. What makes someone evil? Is it purely their actions? Is it their intentions? And how much can we excuse because of the greater good? These questions are at the heart of Griffith's character and the story of Berserk. Miura really forces us to confront the uncomfortable grey area between right and wrong, showing us that evil isn't always just about malice or cruelty. Sometimes it's ambition or even dreams that have spiraled out of control. Alright, so let's back up and meet Griffith. When we're first introduced to him in Berserk, he's the leader of a mercenary group called the Band of the Hawk. Now, Griffith isn't your typical warrior. He's this charismatic, almost angelic figure with an ambitious dream to create his own kingdom where he's in control of his own fate. The world of Berserk is brutal, chaotic, and unforgiving, and Griffith stands out as this figure of hope and leadership. People flock to him not just because he's a skilled fighter, but because he gives them a sense of purpose in a world where life is cheap and survival is uncertain. And here's the thing. Griffith has this magnetism, this charisma that makes you want to believe in him. He seems so driven, so sure of his vision, and he backs it up with action. He's not just a dreamer, he's a doer. Under his leadership, the Band of the Hawk goes from being a ragtag group of mercenaries to a powerhouse that's making real moves in the Kingdom of Midland. For a while, Griffith seems almost like a hero, someone who genuinely wants to make the world better, even if he's ruthless in how he goes about it. But Griffith isn't as pure as he appears. While he's inspiring loyalty and friendship, he's also using people to achieve his goals. To Griffith, his comrades aren't just friends, they're stepping stones to his kingdom. This isn't to say he doesn't care about them at all. His relationship with his followers, especially with Guts, is deep and complex. But at the end of the day, they are means to an end. And that's where Griffith's ambition starts to get murky. He's not evil in the traditional sense. He's not out there hurting people for the sake of it, but he's more than willing to sacrifice others to get what he wants. Now, let's talk about his relationship with Guts. If you've been in the fandom long enough, you know Guts and Griffith's dynamic is a huge part of what makes Berserk so compelling. Griffith sees Guts as his equal, the only person who truly understands him, and someone who's crucial to his plans. There's a certain dependency there. Griffith doesn't just see Guts as a tool, but as a friend, maybe even as something more significant. Yet, at the same time, he expects complete loyalty, almost ownership over Guts' loyalty. And this is where things start to fall apart for Griffith. When Guts decides to leave the Band of the Hawk to pursue his own dreams, Griffith doesn't take it well. In fact, Guts leaving shatters him, forcing Griffith to confront something he's been ignoring all along: his own dependence and emotional vulnerability. This brings us to one of the darkest moments in Berserk, a moment that's infamous among fans: the eclipse. This is where we see Griffith make the ultimate choice, one that cements his status as one of the most iconic villains in manga and anime history. After Guts leaves, Griffith spirals into despair, loses his carefully maintained composure, and ultimately makes a desperate, impulsive decision that leads to his capture and torture. When he's eventually freed by Guts and the Band of the Hawk, he's a broken man, physically and mentally destroyed. He's lost everything, including his ability to fight and his dream of ruling a kingdom. Now, faced with the total collapse of his life and dreams, Griffith is given a terrible choice. He can regain everything he's lost, his dream of ruling, of having his own kingdom, but only if he's willing to sacrifice his followers, the very people who've stood by him, fought for him, and saved him. And in that horrifying moment, Griffith chooses his dream over his friends. The eclipse scene is brutal, gut-wrenching, and unforgettable. It's not just a betrayal, it's the complete shattering of everything we thought we knew about Griffith. He sacrifices his friends, his comrades, everyone who believed in him, all for his own ambition. What's terrifying here isn't just the act of betrayal, it's the cold, almost clinical way Griffith does it. By this point, he's convinced himself that his dream is worth any sacrifice, that the lives of others are nothing compared to his vision. It's a monstrous choice. And yet Berserk presents it in a way that forces us to consider why Griffith would make such a decision. He's not doing this out of malice or hatred. He's doing it because, in his mind, his dream is worth more than anything else. And this is where Griffith's character becomes so powerful and so unsettling. Berserk doesn't just let us label him as evil and move on. It makes us confront the uncomfortable truth that evil isn't always straightforward. Griffith's ambition isn't inherently evil, but the lengths he's willing to go to achieve it are. He's a man who has completely detached himself from the consequences of his actions, viewing his comrades as pawns in a game, only he is destined to win. And the scary part, we can see the seeds of that in all of us. Who hasn't had a dream, a goal that we wanted so badly we'd do almost anything to achieve it? Griffith is a reflection of what can happen when that ambition goes unchecked, when the ends start justifying the means and morality gets thrown out the window. But Griffith isn't just a villain, he's a tragic character as well. His ambition, his dream, these are things we can understand, even relate to. In a sense, he's not so different from the heroes we admire who fight for what they believe in. The difference is that Griffith's dream is so all-consuming that it erases any sense of compassion or loyalty he once had. He's a character who has sacrificed his humanity for his ambitions, becoming something monstrous and yet still painfully human. It's that duality, that mix of charisma and cruelty, that makes Griffith so fascinating and so disturbing. Now let's pull back and look at the bigger picture. What is Berserk saying about evil through Griffith? Is it telling us that ambition is dangerous? Or is it warning us about the dangers of unchecked power? Maybe it's both. Griffith represents the idea that greatness often comes at a price, and sometimes that price is everything you once held dear. His character arc shows us that evil isn't always a matter of black and white. Sometimes it's a slow descent, a series of compromises and rationalizations that lead you down a path you never intended to take. And that's what makes Griffith such a compelling villain. He's not just a bad guy in the traditional sense. He's a man who believes he's justified in everything he does. A man whose dreams have consumed him so completely that he can no longer see the people around him as anything other than tools to be used and discarded. In many ways, Griffith is a warning, a reminder of what can happen when we lose sight of the people in our lives, when we start seeing them as obstacles rather than as friends, allies, or loved ones. At the end of the day, Griffith's story isn't just about a fall from grace, it's about the dangers of losing our humanity in the pursuit of something greater. He forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about our own values and ambitions. Would we do the same in his position? Would we be willing to sacrifice others to achieve our dreams? These are tough questions, and Berserk doesn't give us easy answers. It leaves us to grapple with the complexity of Griffith's character and the unsettling realization that, under the right circumstances, we might not be so different from him. And that's why Griffith endures as one of the most unforgettable characters in anime and manga. He's a villain who forces us to question ourselves, to consider the dark places our own ambitions could take us. He's a reminder that evil doesn't always come with a devilish grin or a black cape. Sometimes it looks like a dreamer, a leader, someone who seems to have everyone's best interests at heart, until they don't. All right, that's enough darkness for one day. I hope this breakdown helped you see Griffith in a new light, even if that light is pretty unsettling. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Griffith is pure evil, or do you see him as a tragic figure who just lost his way? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the complex world of anime and manga. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.